Listen, guys, things are getting spicy everywhere. Recently, Trump met with Putin in Alaska. Zelensky is trying to figure out what he's going to do with this, and now apparently Venezuela is doing something absolutely wild. Trump is sending U.S. destroyers to there, along with Marines. Let's go and see where this. Let's see where this goes, guys. Let's see how this unfolds. This is a suggestion via Discord. Let's do it.
Well, the U.S. is deploying destroyers and thousands of Marines towards Venezuela as President Trump looks to crack down on cartels and the Maduro regime. Okay. They could reportedly reach the country's coast as soon as tomorrow. Here to discuss is Dissident Project speaker and an immigrant from Venezuela, Jorge Galicia, along with PragerU political commentator and Venezuelan political refugee, Franklin Camargo. So great to have you both on. I'm going to start with you, Jorge. What is the reaction of Venezuelans? I know you guys are in close contact with people who are living there right now. Over 70–80% of the country voted for the opposition party against Maduro. How are they feeling in this moment, knowing that these destroyers are coming so close to the Venezuelan coast?
Well, first of all, Rachel, thank you for having me again. I think many people in Venezuela are extremely optimistic. They cannot really be loud about it because they're facing a terrible criminal regime. If they express their gratitude towards the United States government and towards President Trump for the pressure he's adding against Maduro, they're going to face horrible consequences. That's why you don't really see a lot of expressions coming out of Venezuela. But you know, I have people there. I talk to them. They are happy.
Yeah, guys, that's like Venezuela is a prime example of what a stolen election actually looks like, guys. Imagine you are someone who voted against something, and then everyone around you has also voted against basically getting this man out, thinking that you're in some type of like democracy of sorts here. Then you find out that he's not leaving. He's not going nowhere, bro. I can imagine that that you may be potentially slightly happy, but silently, obviously, that the United States government has decided to do something specifically about it. Guys, we do need to absolutely do something about Venezuela if we would like to, stop them specifically coming into our country consistently, through our southern border. This is also the first time I've actually heard Fox News say anything about a refugee in any type of positive light here. I hope that it is not just because the guy most likely has a similar ideology as the average Fox viewer. I wonder, but let's continue.
I spoke to one of the opposition activists who was holed up in that embassy for over a year before she was rescued, and I asked her, and she said it's a silent euphoria. And so while they're quietly celebrating what President Trump is doing right now in Venezuela, and frankly, for the whole Western Hemisphere, Franklin, meanwhile, Venezuelans who are living abroad are putting out the most remarkable TikTok, Instagram videos I've ever seen. You're seeing the destroyers coming into the ocean and the planes coming overhead, and YMCA playing, and just the euphoria from the dissident community who's abroad is so palpable and thankful to the administration. Give us more context to that.
Yeah, they have the freedom to say things.
Yes, the Venezuelan people recognizes that the Trump administration is probably one of the biggest allies that Venezuelan freedom fighters have had over the last 25 years. Is someone who has recognized that Maduro is not just a threat to South America, it's not just a threat to Venezuelans, but it's also a threat to the American people. And I think this is the most important thing to mention right now. When we talk about Nicolás Maduro, when we talk about the Venezuelan regime, we're not just talking about a government that we dislike or a dictatorship, a soft dictatorship. We're talking about a narco state, a government that produced over 25% of the entire cocaine that is produced in the entire world. It's also a regime that sent Tren de Aragua, the same criminal organization that killed, for example, Lakin Riley, or that killed Jocelyn Nungaray. So there is a need for the American people, for the well-being of the American people in the Western Hemisphere to have a regime change, to stop these cartels. Yeah. But Venezuelans recognize that Trump is an ally, that the U.S. government is probably the biggest hope that we currently have.
Jorge, let's talk a little.
Guys, hold on. So we have a very short memory on Earth, guys. You guys, we have to have a conversation about why South America is and Central America is like the way it is, right? And that's because of our involvement. Like, understand that we kind of caused all of what the problems are in some of the South American, Central American countries by us kind of stepping in. Now, obviously, the people of Venezuela really have no real ability to get this guy out of power. They have no ability to. Let's just be truthful and honest here. It would be great if when we do go down there, we actually kind of do something, meaningful, if that's needed here, to kind of get him out of there. But the concept of regime change, it all depends on who will be running the country pretty much after, right? I think that's the most important thing. I think that's also the discussion that we had during the Iran conflict here. It's important that we kind of make sure that the person that is going to be taking power, if we do actually go into Venezuela, is doing it for the benefit of the country itself, not our specific benefit. Or we're doing the same exact thing, let's say, that Putin would like to do to Zelensky, as in get Zelensky out of power and make it so he can install someone that is sympathetic to Russia's causes, and not specifically for the benefit of the country itself. I do think that it's really important that at the very least you have someone that is there exclusively for the benefit and not to the detriment of the people of Venezuela, guys.
A little bit about who else is involved with Nicolás Maduro. It's not just the drug cartels, which is serious, and I appreciate Franklin laying that part out. But it's the Chinese, it's the Iranians. Let's talk about the Chinese, because they made a huge play and got away with a lot of stuff while America was looking in the other direction, towards the Middle East, towards Ukraine. And the Chinese were making their move in our hemisphere, in our backyard. Explain.
Yeah, definitely China is all involved in Venezuela. I remember when I was there, I once went to a military outpost and I was embarrassed because I saw the Chinese flag waving in this military place where, in a military place in Venezuela, you should only see Venezuelan flags, and that's about it. I saw a Chinese flag, I saw a Cuban flag, an Iranian flag. That doesn't really make sense. So all of these countries are openly operating in Venezuela to harm American interests in the region. And it's such a good news that President Trump is finally taking notice and acting accordingly to stop this.
Well, we're looking at something very historic about to happen. All eyes on Latin America. If Donald Trump succeeds if President Trump succeeds in cleaning up the Western Hemisphere from Maduro and his very nefarious influences with cartels, the Chinese and the Iranians, I think it may be his greatest foreign policy success, really ever. It really impacts us. It's our backyard. So, right, Franklin, Jorge, thanks for joining us, and we'll be checking back.
Okay, that's it here, guys. Guys, like be fully aware, it's not just Venezuela, it's Brazil also. You have to understand when Russia decided to basically invade the Ukraine, and then we put sanctions on the US dollar, on Russia, for example, they decided to create something called the BRICS currency. The BRICS currency incorporated Brazil, Russia, India, China, South America, and then later on a couple of other countries tried to kind of get in on it. They basically tried to kind of remove the concept of utilizing paper money that has no actual value in itself, right? So they tried to, for example, this is why a couple of years ago the price of gold and a lot of like precious stones and minerals kind of shot up through the roof, guys. Specifically, if you're holding gold, you understand what I'm talking about when I'm saying this. Even silver went up, even though silver is currently low, but even silver went up higher than it should have been, let's say. And because all these countries started to kind of do this thing here. So any country that is named in there should be looked at very interestingly, all right, in the BRICS currency. So don't just disregard some of the other countries in the region that are also kind of big players that are definitely utilizing Chinese loans and things like that to kind of push their country forward. Don't forget that at all, bro. Please don't. All right, it's not just Venezuela, it's a couple places. But again, it's really important for us to kind of think about this logically here. I fully understand the selfish need, let's say, as an American here, I'm just, speaking candidly, I fully understand the need to kind of install someone that will have our interests at heart, if that makes any sense here. Like, you're not going to do nothing without basically speaking to the president or anyone in the United States of America. I get that. That's a selfish need here. But unless we're going to take on Venezuela like Puerto Rico, let them have their own thing, okay? Like, not every single thing that goes through their government should be to our benefit, if that makes any sense here. Specifically, if you want to maintain them as a sovereign nation, not a territory, unless we're still, colonizing the planet, if that's a thing here. But I do think that that's really important to make sure for the benefit of the people in Venezuela, the leader needs to be Venezuela first. Okay, just my opinion here. I'm all for. I love it. Listen. I like the idea of having someone who is absolutely sympathetic to all of our causes, but that's not to the benefit of the people. And I would personally care more about the benefit of the people than our selfish needs and desires. If that makes any sense here, guys. But let me know in the comments. I'm sure I just angered a couple of you guys, right? Because again, I'm not someone who wants to continue consistently colonizing specifically a region that we have had. Look, guys, look at the history. What have we done to this region? They are in the position that they are because we sucked them dry, guys. We did. We sucked them dry, period. I'm telling you. And then installed terrible leaders that were completely sympathetic to us, not them. And then a decade, 2 decades, 4 decades later, we're dealing with the repercussions of a failed state, and a gigantic amount of people from that country specifically hitting our southern border. That's what the remnant of that is, right? So installing again, what does that mean for our future? I get it. Most of the people that are in Congress right now are not going to be alive to see the damage that they're going to do in the future. Everything is temporary. Okay, let's not consistently chase the concept of a temporary high, let's say, and actually chase the concept of like stability. Consistent, permanent stability. Let these countries specifically be their own sovereign nations without the influence of us in them. If that makes any sense. But again, just my opinion. I could be wrong here. You guys are going to tell me. I smell it. Right. But in the meantime, I'll catch you guys later. You guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. If you guys are new here, please like and subscribe. And in the meantime, I'll catch you guys later.